So what happens when a whole industry gets turned on its head in just 90 days? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. The incredible story of how AI images went from being this cool, creative novelty to an absolute professional standard. And it felt like it happened overnight. Let's break down how one tool from Google completely changed the game.
You know, for the longest time, AI could make some seriously mind-blowing pictures. But there was always this little gap, wasn't there? This space between an image that looks awesome on your social feed and an actual asset you could hand over to a client for a real campaign. That is the professional gap we're talking about. Okay, so to really get what happened, we gotta rewind a bit. Let's go back to the middle of 2025. Back then, the world of AI images was pretty much run by two big heavyweights. So you basically had two camps, right? On one side, you had Midjourney, the absolute king for anything artsy, stylized, or conceptual. And on the other side, Flux AI was the champ for anything photorealistic. And look, they were both amazing tools, don't get me wrong, but they kind of forced you to choose. Do you want art or do you want realism? Neither one was quite perfect for actual commercial work. And even the best stuff, it just had that look, that shiny, almost too perfect plastic feel that just screamed, I was made by an AI. For a professional designer, that was a huge red flag. It made the image feel like a fun experiment, not a polished final asset you could bill a client for. But honestly, the biggest deal breaker wasn't even how it looked. It was what it couldn't do. If you tried to put text on anything, a poster, a product label, anything, you'd get this: mush, total gibberish, warped letters, words spelled wrong. It was a complete non-starter for anyone trying to do real design work. And right into this mess, that's when Google stepped in. But they weren't trying to make a better art generator or a more realistic photo tool. Nope, they were laser-focused on solving this one giant problem for professionals. And their whole pitch was brilliant. Google wasn't building a better toy, they were building a better tool. They weren't aiming for artists just playing around with ideas. They were aiming for designers who had a client breathing down their neck and a deadline to hit. This thing was designed from the ground up to make assets you could actually use. And the feature list? It was like a checklist of every designer's biggest complaints. I mean, finally, clean, readable text. It had something called a reasoning step, so it actually think about the layout before it made the image. It could pull real-time data from Google Search, which is crazy, and it spat out 4K files ready for production. The whole point was to get rid of that extra painful trip to Photoshop. Okay, so designers are starting to get on board with Pro. They're loving it, it's finding its way into their daily work, and then, bam! Just when everyone thinks they can relax for a second, Google does it again. But this time, the speed of it all was just wow. I mean, look at this timeline. It's just insane. The first version hits in August, the Pro model lands in November, and then Nano Banana 2 drops only 3 months after that, in February 2026. We're talking 3 huge, industry-shifting releases in about 6 months. That pace is practically unheard of. And the pitch for Nano Banana 2 was just so simple, it was genius. Basically, take everything that makes Nano Banana Pro great, but run it on their super fast, super efficient Gemini 3.1 Flash engine. All the quality, none of the waiting. But this wasn't just about making things faster. It was about making them accessible to everyone. The price for developers to use it in their apps dropped like a rock. But the real game changer, the real earthquake, look at that last row. Nano Banana 2 became the new default model inside the Gemini app. All of these pro-level tools were now in the hands of millions of people. 50% cheaper. Just let that sink in. Cutting the cost in half for the most common image size wasn't just a small discount. It completely changed the math. It meant that all of a sudden, generating thousands of images for something like an e-commerce site wasn't a crazy expense anymore. It was just possible. But wait, there's more. Seriously, it wasn't just faster and cheaper. Nano Banana 2 also rolled out brand new features that solved some of the most frustrating headaches that still existed for creators. It unlocked 3 new superpowers that were frankly on every creator's wish list. First up, subject consistency. This is the holy grail, you guys. The big one. You could finally make a character and keep them looking the same from image to image. Second, localization, translating text inside an image. And third, web grounding, so your images could be based on up-to-the-minute info. And if you don't think subject consistency is a big deal, you've clearly never tried to make a comic or a storyboard with AI. You know that pain, right? You get the perfect character in one shot, and in the very next one, they suddenly have a different haircut and eye color. It was a total deal breaker.
So you'd start with a prompt just like this one. You create your character, you describe what makes them unique, you set the scene, and you get an image you really like. Okay, great. But now for the hard part. But now with Nano Banana 2, you just tell it what to do next. Now put them here. And there they are. The same person, same blue visor, same coat, all the little details are still there, but in a totally new spot. The AI remembered. It understood context. This was huge.
So what does this all mean? Where are we now? Well, it means we're way past choosing between the art one and the realistic one. Now, it's about having a whole toolbox full of specialized instruments. And the real skill is knowing which one to pick up for the job at hand. So the question becomes strategic, right? When do you use which tool? You're going to reach for Nano Banana 2 when you need speed, when you're storyboarding and need that character consistency, or when you're just trying out a bunch of ideas for free. But you're going to stick with the pro model for that final high-stakes client project where every single detail has to be perfect, and there's absolutely no room for error. And this all kind of brings us to one final, really important question. As the tools get this good, this fast, when the AI can handle the hard stuff like text and keeping characters consistent, the hard part isn't the how anymore. The value shifts. The most valuable human skill isn't being a technical wizard. It's taste, it's creative direction, it's judgment. It's having a great idea in the first place.